My name is Daniel Robledo. I'm the oldest of 5 kids. I have been traveling the world since I was 15. Besides being the responsible one, I'm an ultra runner who is aspiring to be an author.
Your 2017 under 20 age group winner, Daniel Robledo, in an awesome time of 11:32:31 for 50 miles. He wanted to do 50 miles before his 18th birthday. Today was the day. They came up from San Diego, Coronado.
It's not the best thing you've ever had.
I don't know, there was some.
I take a picture.
No.
I can read that in a second and then film
Video.
A few weeks away.
I should be
6 weeks inside.
Dark, tell me how horrible it is.
feel like
Well, I haven't had this much foot pain for a long time, so don't leave without me or I'll find you and kill you.
happy birthday.
Oh wow, that white hat does not look as good. I saw this coming.
Sourdough campground.
Are you sure it doesn't mean sourdough stoves only, like stoves that are made of sourdough?
Make some sourdough bread there. It's a sourdough bread making campground.
Sign me up. I'm there.
Sourdough campground, sourdough stove. This is who I am.
Hey guys, if you're new to our channel, we're the Robledos, and we have been living in our RV for 3.5 years with our 5 kids. And we want to introduce you to each one of our kids. So we're going to start off with our favorite. This is Daniel, our oldest. Everybody in our family jokes because Daniel can do no wrong, at least from me.
That's not true.
I would say
It's just a joke.
I get virtually nothing right the first time. And most of the time, not the second.
But his love language is words of affirmation, so I try to always tell him in a positive way.
Yeah.
Ironically, Victor's love language is words of affirmation too, and yet I seem to say everything
She's
Critically.
critically.
The appropriate.
So we're going to introduce you to Daniel. He's 19.
Daniel Christopher.
You really shouldn't have started the series off with me. By the second episode, you're going to see a plummet in viewership.
Wait. Put your head right here. This is about how big Danny was when he was born. 5 pounds.
He was so small. I was induced a few weeks early because he was small for gestational age. And so he came out so tiny.
Pretty much like a
He
preemie.
had like a little turtle head though. He looked like a turtle.
And look at me now.
So cute.
Exactly the same way, but hairier chin.
And he never was put down. This kid so his next sibling is 1.5 years. For 18 months of his life, I don't think he was ever put down.
Yeah.
No.
First grandkid on both sides of our family, really. Like, the kid never probably had to cry, never had anything.
No, but he was colicky when he
Oh,
came
that's
home.
true.
He cried plenty.
He cried, but
That's the first day I went to
Okay,
Starbucks.
this
Was the
sounds
day we
pretty
brought
accurate.
him home. The morning after the night we brought him home, and I walked into Starbucks, not ever having really had drinking any coffee. Like, hey, I'm new to coffee.
and now look at you.
No.
So first question we have for Danny is going to be the hardest one. We're just going to put it all out there. What do you really think about living in an RV? None of this is rehearsed, by the way.
It's affordable. It is affordable.
It's affordable.
Okay, that was you can be honest.
Oh,
Do you
okay.
love it?
No. Thank you. Good
Do you
night.
feel like you're
That's it.
limited in personal space?
Yeah, most of the time. Right now it works. I try to coordinate. If they're leaving at 5, I want to leave so that I get back at 4:58, just in time to see them leave.
We pretty much try to make it so that he gets a lot of alone time. In fact, I've already told him when we get our next fifth wheel, he could get a job that pays for one of his sites, and he could have this whole RV to himself.
I don't know. I'm just
Bachelor pad.
I've just been in this one long enough that I don't think. I'm kind of just sick of looking at it.
You need to change the scenery.
Even though it's remodeled and beautiful.
even though it is remodeled, the remodel helped it for like kept it a few months. Because by the time we moved out of it before the remodel, I just wanted to vomit anytime I like looked at it. Now,
It's right there.
just to let it
It's right
swallow
there.
it.
It's called baby burp. Just like a
And
baby burp.
I
you
got a
swallow
few
back
more
down.
months left in me.
So before Daniel turned 18, he did something pretty incredible. What'd you do right before your 18th birthday?
I ate a lot of food.
Yeah, no, like a couple weeks before your 18th birthday.
I ran a lot. I ran for 11 and a half hours straight. Unless I was eating, peeing, or crapping.
He ran his first 50 miler, and that was kind of set in motion because when Daniel, as perfect of a child as he was, when he was younger, he was a little lazy. He liked to play a lot of video games, and they were homeschooled, so it's not like there's PE class.
He didn't like team sports either.
That's true.
Like
Let's
we
be fair.
we signed him up for soccer.
I
We
saw
talked about
it.
nothing really resonated. Actually, 1 month I forced him. Like, all right, I was
You
a
made me
wrestler.
wrestle.
I made him wrestle.
I cried
He
every
cried.
night.
Yeah. And thankfully, by the end of the month, I'm like, oh, you're done. You don't have to do it. I give up.
Yeah, there's
We
a
like
lot
it-
of pent-up anger in the sport. It didn't mesh with my sensitivity.
You sensitive.
He was probably
Where
12,
was that kid?
and he was, getting a little bit rolly, and I'm like, you need to. So I go, you have to. Am I really patient, Mom, and like gentle in my approach?
It's a trap. Don't take the
It's
bait.
okay. No, I'm not. I'm
No,
pretty blunt
not at
about
all.
everything, and so I'm like, you have to run a mile twice a week, and it was.
Well,
it
you
was
also wait. You forgot to mention that you timed him too, right? And he hated
That was
that.
but like just the idea I was supposed to like race a mile was like it just didn't work for me because it was just I always dreaded it, and I think we did it off and on. I don't think we can. If you know anything about my mom, she doesn't do anything consistently except make fun of my dad and drink coffee,
Yeah.
I guess, and drink alcohol.
Okay.
But
the truth.
so yeah,
The running.
I would run off and on, but it was I was about 12. It was we've been trying to do it for like a year. I can't remember anything, but I do remember one time I was complaining about it a lot, and my mom said, just run 2 miles, but you're not going to be timed, so run them slow. And I remember finishing that and having a very noticeably different feeling afterwards. Like I wasn't being rushed. And
I remember
afterwards, I was
distinctly, he's like, I can do
Wait,
that more often.
in general, this guy doesn't like to be rushed.
I think
either.
I did it actually that day. I did another half mile.
It's like, yeah, I can't keep running. So after that, Pandora's box opened. He was running. He just kept building up mileage.
Well, it was
what
pretty
age were
slow
you?
for the first.
His third-
For the first year,
Before his
year and a
13th
half,
birthday.
I was only running like from 2 to 4 miles, maybe 5.
Yeah, but for that age, it was a lot.
Yeah, it wasn't until we moved to the K's though. I ran like nonstop.
Which was when you were 13.
Was
Yeah.
that
12.
13?
I thought it was
12
just
or
13.
13, because we moved out when you were 15. But 12 or 13, he started running a little bit more, and then he ran a marathon on his 14th birthday by himself.
Yeah.
He just went out and ran a marathon.
So yeah, 14 I did a marathon. It sucked pretty bad. But when I was 16, I got to 30 miles, which was an even
50
bigger
K.
one, bigger stuff from there. And I eventually got to 50 miles when I was 18. I believe it was like April that year. And I was like, I gotta do this before I'm 18. And then I was injured, and then.
Now he just
yeah.
does the best. Last week he told me, like, he was going to train for a marathon. I just rather run and just feel good and enjoy it than have to have this goal. And that's kind of, in a nutshell, I love it. I'm like, I would be horrible at training for a certain event because I just like to wake up and like, oh, what do I feel like doing today? Oh, I think I'm going to go surf or whatever. So it's pretty cool. So what is your true passion right now?
Right now, I'm really trying to focus on being a writer. I would say if I had the 2 things I love in the world,
peanut butter and jelly.
yeah, writing and running, exercise and stories. That's what I've been focusing a lot on the last few months.
So he's thrown out a couple,
I'm like a madhouse for ideas too. I'm just like plagued by them.
we'll go backpacking and he brings note cards of like ideas for books, and we like when we're sitting in the tent at night going to sleep, he's like, okay, what about this idea? And then we'll go with an idea and be like, okay, what about this title? What about Danny doesn't go anywhere without a pen and a note card to take ideas and
a good idea.
to write them down. And it's really cool when about 16 when you published I Am Epic, right?
Yeah, I think it was about I was 18.
18, okay.
I was 18 when I did that, and I had been writing that book for like 3.5 years. Not a lot, like each day I'd write like a half hour, but I was about 18 when I was like, I need to finish this book, otherwise I will be forever known as the guy who's still writing his first book.
So what's crazy about that, if you homeschool, if you struggle with your kids when they're younger, because, you know, they're supposed to be reading and writing by kindergarten. I think they have to have essays in first grade. This is ridiculous. This kid could, okay, again, embarrass Danny, could barely read and write by 8 years old. I mean, like, he could read, but it was struggling. Like,
he didn't like it.
Hated it. His writing was horrible. Penmanship was horrible. And so, finally, I think he was 9. I came back and said, we came back from a date. I handed him Percy Jackson. I'm like, you have 2 weeks to finish this. Remember, hard-ass mama here. It's like, you finish this in 2 weeks. He finished it in like 2 days. He couldn't put it down. He just loved it. So if your kids 4 days, if your kids don't like writing or reading, be patient. Give them a lot of different things. Sometimes
Find what the kids are into.
Yeah. And then if they're just like Jiraiya, who you'll meet and just lazy, then no, just keep throwing things at him.
Well,
He's getting there.
Jiraiya read Percy Jackson in 3 days like me, but like then he had
can't
no
find
interest
the next
again.
one,
Yeah, he's...
Usually, like with Daniel, lit a fire and he continued to read whatever, digest anything.
So, writing is an amazing thing because...
I don't recommend doing it, by the way. It's really not, like, if you don't feel like you need to do it, as a human being, don't do it. Similar to, like, running, if you can get a kick out of, like, 4 miles, don't run a marathon. But, like, for writing, unless you feel like you need to do it to rescue your sanity, then it's probably not worth it. But you might have to.
All right, so we've asked you about your writing and your running, but you know I've been working with kids for about 24 years, and I've never met a young man or a kid like Danny is. So why don't you kind of summarize who you are a little bit? Kind of let everyone know who you are, because your family knows who you are.
Right. I've always thought it was really hard to explain that, just because I'm not a very verbal person. Part of the reason that I run and I write is because I don't really... That's how I can express myself. I'm definitely not much of a speaker. If I wanted to say something, I would write it down, and not in a direct.
Obviously introverted.
Not in really a direct way either.
Which is kind of funny though, because you're so witty. Danny comes across with the craziest one-liners that I wish we captured.
Some miss.
Most hit. They're funny. What about that old soul?
Yeah, I'm a pretty old person. I mean. When I was like, I remember I had my first iPod, and it just had a bunch of like 70s music, a bunch of Jack Johnson, the Bee Gees, what is it? I was just listening to that, and everyone thought that was so funny because I wasn't listening to like pop
contemporary music.
Yeah, but that
he gets along like if it was a room of 10-year-olds,
I get
teenagers.
I don't get along with anyone really near my age for some reason. I mean, if they're like 12 or younger, I know how to interact. If they're like 50s or 40s and older than that, then I know how to interact. But like between that,
interesting thing, when we moved to Silverthorne for a couple months, Danny got a job. He was tired of the motorhome. Part of being out of the motorhome, said, "Well, we got to all pitch in to pay for this house to rent." What was your impression of being part of the workforce, and how's that affect your decision? Like everyone's like, why aren't you in college yet? Why aren't you?
I think it does bring like a certain weight of reality to yourself, and like, okay, this is what like the importance of, because people say money is important, but it is important to have money. It's just not important for that to be your biggest priority. But like money is important to have, and there's a level of responsibility that you have to have, and it has made me think like about what I need to like, if I need to plan for something. Like I was like thinking like, well, if I couldn't have that job, I couldn't have any of these like any entry level job. I couldn't have that job if I wanted to have a kid or all these things that were.
It
So,
doesn't
so it forced you to kind of think a little bit about your future and like what steps
Yeah.
you're going to take to live,
at the same
align
time-
your life and your job, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, like, it was hard. Easily the hardest part was seeing everyone else who was in the workforce working 40, maybe even 60 hours a week, and like that their whole identity had been wrapped up into this thing that they were doing that wasn't even part of their personality
Yeah.
or part of their passion.
They
and
kind
it
of
was
lost
kind of
purpose.
and that was really scary. So they kind of kicked me in the butt. I felt like, and like I need to actually like consider these other things that are actually like what I want to be doing, and make sure I don't let those go, because they might very like I'm sure all those people were 20 years old at one point, and I assume happy, or assume had ambition, or I assume had a social life, and had all something or other, and now just don't really have anything.
So to wrap up, Danny is not. Are you a fan of traveling?
No, like just by nature. Even when they want to say like, "What do you want to travel?" I'm like, my idea of traveling, my favorite idea of traveling is going to one location and spending several months there.
Which has
So,
been
like,
cool.
Which is not traveling, but it's like that's where like
Well, traveling to a destination.
Yeah, as far as
there's
I
a lot
travel,
of people do that.
I travel way too fast for
Yeah.
both of them, but especially Danny got to a point like, he actually likes travel. Victor would rather just kind of stay put, would do a week in Hawaii. Danny actually likes
Mom?
the thought of traveling, but wants to be there 3 months or 4
Take it in,
months,
yeah.
and
well, I always think that like you can get more out of like one really nice city than you can get out of getting pit stops at 20 cities.
yeah. So, what was your favorite place though that we've been to?
Oh, interesting.
It is interesting because there's certain places that I would love to go back to, even though I didn't have
Bali,
the
right?
most enjoy. We're not talking about Bali. We are not talking about Bali in this video.
If you want to know about Bali, watch 2018 in review.
Yeah.
We're not talking about it.
Okay, let's go.
go. Where would you like
Sorry,
to go back
I was
to?
having a flashback.
Whew, sweat dripping down.
Probably my favorite places. I didn't have really the best experiences there, but I was most want to go back to is like Norway, New Zealand. These are like the prettiest places I've ever been to. We didn't have the best, things happen. Like it wasn't the funnest places to go, but I'd be most interested to go back there. Places that I would want to just go in general to live are pretty boring places. They're probably places like in the U.S. or even that speak English. So
It's not a fan of.
I don't like just being in countries where I can't
speak the
communicate
language.
whatsoever. That's a little hard for me, but I don't know.
So we're really grateful that Danny stuck around this long, even if it's not always his favorite. He plays a very crucial role in our family. As much as he might have had a hard-ass teacher of homeschooling, he's kind of become the hard-ass teacher in our family with homeschooling. He
Yeah,
really
that's
is the
kind of-
one who does all of Tati and Jiraiya's school now, and he keeps them on a routine. He's very strict with them. He makes sure
Which-
they eat their breakfast and they eat the right foods, and
Which I get in trouble for constantly. I constantly get in trouble because my mom just wants to I just want to go blog and surf and then go party. I actually got fired from. I'm not allowed to teach them school.
so that's a whole nother episode of how to homeschool your kids. Jiraiya and Tati weren't being respectful back to Danny, and I didn't like how they were treating him because of that. So I fired him and told Jiraiya and Tati that they can just work at McDonald's. But I'm trying to work on self-accountability is very important to me. So Danny technically is fired for the last couple weeks because I want him to just work on his own stuff for a little bit. But for the last 6 months to a year, you've been the person doing most of their schooling.
Yeah.
And yes, I do go surf most mornings, so he makes sure and feeds them breakfast.
No, but
Last question for Danny. Here we go. With all said and done, with travel, with
no.
living in an RV,
Oh no.
do you think this unconventional living has been beneficial for you?
last 3 years or last 10 years.
Last 3 years.
beneficial. I think in a long-term sense, yes. I think I've learned a lot. I don't think it was fun. It was not fun by my standards. But
You have to define fun, I guess.
Do you know how to have fun?
No, but
I'm just kidding.
I wouldn't say it was like fun. I don't think most, because we were traveling a lot, and like I don't think most of those travels I liked. But I think overall,
But by seeing all the world,
I took a lot of stuff away from it. I learned a lot about. I don't want to be cheesy, but I learned a lot about life. I like to think. So.
You're
I mean,
30
I'm not
or
gonna-
40. Well, how
I'm
about
not
this?
gonna
Your
say-
40-year-old's version of yourself. What do you think you'll look back and be most appreciative of this time?
Yeah, what thing?
Just learning about the world in general and what like the people in the Silverthorne did not. To them, reality was not. They had this misconception about what reality was. Reality was you went to work. You maybe had some kids, you paid the bills, and you got to, on the weekends, do one or two things you enjoy. Maybe you went out to dinner or maybe went for a short hike.
Yeah.
That is actually not reality. That's your construction of reality, unfortunately. And it can be really scary what reality is, but like all around the world, people have their different ideas of what reality is. So no one has like an actual understanding of what it is. It's just what you make of it, and it can be as unpleasant or pleasant as you want it to be, or it'll probably be a mixture of both.
I guarantee that theme will be in one of his future books.
Yeah.
All right.
Reality.
I hope you enjoyed
It's the
meeting
Matrix.
Danny. He's an amazing kid. We put him on the spot a lot today, but it's cool, you know.
Oh, he's uncomfortable. Like, physical contact makes him uncomfortable.
You should know one more thing about me. I'm always uncomfortable.
He had no.